It's the end of the road for the old Lexus GS F here. You see, Lexus has slated to end production of the current GS at the end of 2020, but with no successor announced, it looks like that's the end of the road for this car. And that makes me really sad, because this GS F is so incredibly special. Now, looks aren't the most important thing when it comes to buying a new car. After all, people do go out and buy the new Toyota Prius and BMW X6 en masse. But it absolutely helps that the GS F is strikingly handsome. This car doesn't have a bad angle on it. And yes, before you even comment, I do even love the spindle grille up front. I mean, check out the carbon fiber inlay this particular car has on it. It also helps this car has the optional 19-inch BBS wheels, which look gorgeous contrasting against this gray metallic paint. Just like the exterior of this car makes a BMW M550i look absolutely boring, so too does the interior of this car. I mean, the caliber of the materials Lexus has put in this GS F model are stunning. Carbon fiber inlays, red and black leather, Alcantara everywhere, multicolored stitching. Everything in this car looks and feels really special. Alright, I want to get this out of the way as quickly as possible so we can get on to the fun stuff. Now, as much as I adore the interior of this car, everything you touch feels really special. It's worth noting there are a few cheap plasticky bits in here, like this, and this, and then there's the infotainment. Now, unfortunately, this is simply a step behind the competition in pretty much every single way. While the screen is nice and large and pretty resolute, the interface is awful. Now, in order to control anything on this screen, you have to use a little trackpad down here. And the goal is to use the trackpad to hit all the prompts on the screen. Now, the problem with that is not only is this a really slow system, but this trackpad is really finicky and really tough to get it to hit exactly what you're looking for.
But the GSF's foibles fall to the wayside once you begin driving it.
Woo-hoo-hoo! Oh my God, would you just listen to this thing? Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo! Oh my God, this thing sounds amazing. That's because this has the Lexus F design engine. It's a 5-liter V8, the 2UR GSE. 5-liter V8, 12.3:1 compression, redline 7,300 RPM, naturally aspirated, no turbochargers getting in the way. It produces 471 horsepower, 389 pound-feet of torque, and just sounds glorious. I mean, just listen to it. Woo-hoo! Oh my God. Oh, that's so satisfying. Now, don't think this is just a cruiser with a big engine up front. The GS F can really handle. This thing is seriously magic in the corners. There are some cars that are really just made to handle. And it's more than about lap times of the Nürburgring, some track you'll never go to in your life. It's about getting this car on a winding road and really feeling it. And this car makes you feel it. Those 19-inch wheels I pointed out are shod with Michelin Pilot Supersport Summer Rubber. 255/35/19 up front and 275/35/19 out back. This car has some serious footprint on the ground. There's something about this car and the way it tackles a winding road that just feels so special. It doesn't iron out the bumps. You feel it hitting the bumps. You feel it controlling these body motions, controlling the spring and the wheel and the tire. But it all works together so well. It's such an effective package. How is a 4,000-pound Lexus GS family sedan so communicative and so easy to drive hard and fast? Oh my God. This is a special, special car. Oh my God. Now I think part of what makes this car feel so special is actually not the engine or the suspension. It's actually back there. It's the differential. You see, the GS F is rear-wheel drive like most sports sedans, but Lexus has employed a torque vectoring differential. Now what that is a limited slip differential that has 2 clutch packs inside that distribute torque to each of the rear wheels. However, those clutch packs have electronic controllers that use all the sensors on this car and determine how much wheel slip the car is experiencing in real time to optimize the amount of traction and power putting down ability this car really has. So there's actually a small display here on the central display that actually shows you what the torque vectoring diff is doing in real time. It's so clever. It makes this car so hooked up and so connected and so easy to drive. Despite having the thick end of 500 horsepower, it's so docile, it's so nice, it's so approachable. Though part of that approachability inevitably comes from the powertrain. Because this is not turbocharged like most all of its competition, actually all of its competition, because it's naturally aspirated, there's a great sense of linearity about how it delivers the power. It builds up in this nice crescendo. Peak torque is at 5,200 RPM. Peak horsepower is at 7,100 RPM. Redline, like I said, is 7,300 RPM. It's a car that encourages you to wind it out. It also encourages you to wind it out not because of the power. Honestly, you can drive this car under 2,000 RPM around town all day, but because of the noise. The baffles in the intake system for this engine open up at 3,600 RPM. You can see the setup on the intake. I'll cut to a clip of it. And when it opens up, it just, it's just that nice, meaty roar in the mid-range that comes into a wail up top. From 3,600 to about 5,500 RPM, it sounds really meaty, really enjoyable like a V8 should. But then once you get past that, once you're at 6,000 revs and above, oh, it just sings. It's like it's singing, it's baleful, it feels alive. It actually reminds me a little bit of the V10 engine in the Lexus LFA. It just screams. It makes that BMW M550i just feel completely sterile and boring. Oh, there it is right there. That, come on, baby. Woo-hoo! That's really the only demerit there. This car has the amazing torque vectoring diff, this incredible sing-song engine that feels absolutely alive. But this 8-speed automatic transmission really kind of holds it back. You see, it can shift plenty quick. When you're full throttle going bang, 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 it's fast. That's not the problem. The problem is the gear spacing. The gearing is just too long in this car. So what that means is that first gear goes to 45 miles an hour, second goes to 73, third goes to 105, and fourth may as well go to 1,000,000 miles an hour. And if you had a 6-speed transmission, well, that's just what you get. But you have 8 gears to choose from here. If you make gears 1 through 5, maybe like 10% shorter, 10% more aggressive. So first went to like 40, second went to 65, third went to like 90 or 95, and fourth went to like 120 or 130. You could approach this glorious sound more easily. You can access it. Because I want to hear this all the time. But right now, in order to get to that glorious sound in third gear, that's jail speeds. If you get busted in this state going over 100 miles an hour, you have a 50-50 shot of going straight to jail. Ask me how I know. Because look at this. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. There it is. This is a fast car, don't get me wrong, but I want to hear that glorious sound on you right at the rev limiter. But I have to go to
literal jail speeds to hear it. Let's talk about fuel economy. It is not great, as you would expect from a big 4,000-pound family sedan with a screaming 5-liter V8 that is basically being driven by a psychopath like me all the time. I've averaged 16 miles to the gallon overall, though I suppose it is rated at 16 city, 24 freeway, 20 combined. I've averaged exactly 16 so far. And that has given me a working fuel range of just over 200 miles to a tank, which is not great. But that's kind of the name of the game with any of these high-performance big sedans. I mean, even with turbocharging and direct fuel injection and all this and that and everything else, there's only so much you can do to fight the fact they are huge sedans with monstrously powerful engines under the hood. So, what about the competition? I know I've touched upon the BMW M550i the most because that's the one I've most recently driven. It's come to mind the most easily when I was thinking about this car. But this car does have a few competitors. Pretty much all of them come from Germany, which is very interesting. So, first up, again, BMW M550i. More powerful than this car, 4.4 twin-turbo V8, great engine, great ZF 8-speed transmission. The rest of the car is pretty dull, especially compared to this. This just feels much more special. The interior feels more special. The driving experience is more special. The whole car feels more special. Dollar for dollar, it's very close once you option them out the same. This car is $89,000 and an M550i starts at $76,000, but obviously it's a German car. You have to add options to get it how you want it. It's also gonna be about 90 grand, as it should be said. Now, the Mercedes-Benz camp, you're obviously looking at the Mercedes-Benz E-Class. Now, interestingly, this is a bit of a packaging thing. So if you go into the Mercedes, you're either gonna buy an E53 AMG or the full-bore E63S AMG. This slots right in the middle. Power, performance, price, packaging, all of it. This is right in between those two. So it's kind of a matter of what do you want. The E53 is a turbocharged 6-cylinder, while this is a naturally aspirated V8. Meanwhile, the full-fat E63S is a twin turbocharged V8 engine. Unsurprisingly, much more powerful than this car. It's over 600 horsepower now, which is absolutely insane. Now, which of the two do I prefer? Well, obviously the E63S. It's also a lot more money. You see, the E63S starts at over 100 grand, and once you option it out how you want to option it out, it's going to be about $115,000 to $120,000, which is just, what, over 30 grand more than this car? So, I love the engine, I love the way it drives, but 30 grand? Ooh, that's a lot of cash. Now, next up is the Audi camp. Now, this is where things also going to be interesting because of packaging. You're looking at really the S6 and I guess kind of the S7. That's a bit of a conceit there. You see, the S6 is the closest on paper to this thing. 4-door sedan. The S7 is actually kind of a sloping hatchback, shooting brake sort of thingy. So if you look at the S6, the closest Audi competitor to this car, well, you're gonna notice a few things. One, I love the Audi's interior compared to this car. Granted, I think the materials, when you spec them out the same, are very, very close. Both are really handsome interiors. But because the Audi is MMI and that's so much better than this Lexus infotainment system, I'll give that a slight edge on the interior department. The current crop of Audis is just really good. However, that S6 is down a bit in the horsepower department. It makes 443 horsepower, which is obviously less than this guy. That's because it's a boosted 6-cylinder, not a V8. Though on the up and up, because it's boosted, it does have more torque than this naturally aspirated high RPM Screamer. So, less power, more torque, same money, comfortable interior, pick your poison. I have to say, out of all of them, when you just look at them, I know it's hard to tell on paper, but this just feels so special. Something about this car gives me that same sensation I feel in the Camaro SS1LE and cars like that. Just something innately special with this car. It just feels like the last of its breed. And because there is presumably no more Lexus GS after this year, it kind of is the last of its breed. And as sad as that makes me, because this car is really good, it makes it that much more special. It means if you are interested in this car, you need to hurry up and buy one because it just might not exist in the future. And at this rate, with the mass adoption of turbocharging, I suspect there just isn't much of a place for this engine in the future either. That also makes me sad, but it also means that while you can get it, it's just so unbelievably special.
Despite it looking as if it jumped out of a Japanese manga about a dystopian future in the year 2047, the GS F is an honest sports sedan. It's really straightforward and easy to understand why this is such a good and such a special vehicle. It doesn't take a degree in Germanic social studies to understand it like some of its German rivals. And it makes me sad that it's going away. This is it. This is the swan song for the GS F. So, if you want an honest-to-goodness 4-door sports sedan that can fit 4 people in absolute comfort and luxury, it looks sharp, it drives amazing, it sounds amazing. What are you waiting for? Thanks for watching.